Gospel of Matthew. Olivet Discourse. The rejection of Jesus as the Jewish Messiah came to a head in chapter 23. In that chapter, Jesus pronounces 7 woes upon the scribes, Pharisees and the hypocrites. In the final few verses, he laments over Jerusalem.
O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her! How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house left you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Soon after, he went with his disciples to the Mount of Olives. And Olivet Discourse begins. We start with the beginning of sorrows.
For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many.
Deception comes from many in the name of Jesus. They would not claim to be the Christ. They only come in his name. They would be Christians. What Jesus meant was that the deception will come from the church, possibly from sermons from the pulpit. This deception could be the prosperity gospel of the charismatic church that began in 1948. This was described in the previous study of the kingdom parables of Matthew chapter 13.
And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
Are these things happening today? Are pestilences the ongoing pandemic of the many variants of COVID-19? Such pestilences are also mentioned when the 4th seal is opened by Jesus in the book of Revelation.
Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come.
In the tribulation, the gospel will cause offense. Christians will betray one another and hate one another. Preachers will continue to deceive. Disobedience to the Lord will be rampant as Christians grow lukewarm. This could refer to the lukewarm church in Revelation 3. Yet, the gospel will reach the whole world through the efforts of the 144,000 sealed Jews. Those who persevere will be saved. This may refer to the harvest of the earth in Revelation 14 verse 15. This period is the first half of the 70-week prophecy determined for Israel in Daniel 9. It is for 3.5 years.
Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place,
whoever reads, let him understand.
Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing babies in those days, and pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath,
Abomination of desolation is mentioned in Daniel 9. It will happen during the kingdom of feet and toes of Daniel 2. The prince of the Roman people would reign. We called him the Roman prince in the study of the book of Daniel. Between the tribulation and the great tribulation that comes next is when the abomination occurs.
For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Christ," or "There," do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore if they say to you, "Look, he is in the desert," do not go out. Or, "Look, he is in the inner rooms," do not believe it.
Great tribulation of great intensity and degree. Some charismatic persons will call themselves Christ. False prophets will continue to deceive. This could be the beast of the sea in Revelation 14, the one called the false prophet. They will perform miracles, as did Pharaoh's wise men did to deceive. Apparitions in the likeness of Christ will appear. Do not be deceived, for no one knows what he looks like. This period is the second half of the 70-week prophecy determined for Israel in Daniel 9. It is 3.5 years.
For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
The second coming of Jesus will be seen by all men. The mention of carcasses prompts the question, is there going to be bloodshed at that time? We are reminded of Joel chapter 2, verse 31.
The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. And it shall come to pass that whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved.
Also of Zechariah chapter 12 verse 10.
And I will pour on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication. Then they will look on me, whom they pierced. Yes, they will mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and grieve for him as one grieves for a firstborn.
Who are the elect of Israel? These are gathered by angels sent by the Son of Man. Are they sealed of 11 tribes in Revelation 6? From Matthew 24 verse 32 to 25 verse 29 are 5 parables. These are warnings so we are prepared for the rapture. The parable of the fig tree is interesting. The other 4 are for end time.
Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only.
The fig tree represents Israel. Earlier, he cursed the fig tree and it withered. The fig tree puts forth leaves, Israel is restored. This generation that sees Israel restored will see Jesus coming for the faithful church in the rapture. In his incarnate form he does know the time. Now, he is in heaven seated at the right hand of the Father. Surely, he knows now. The other four are for the time before the rapture. It will be like the time of Noah, people going about normal business. Pastors lording over their congregations. Christians preparing themselves for the rapture. Not all will be caught up. Pastors not living up to their potential. Next, Jesus judges the nations on the basis of their treatment of his brethren. Who are these brethren? It could be only Israel, for the church would be in heaven at that time. That the parable of the fig tree comes after the second coming of the Lord does not mean the rapture happens at that time. When we study the book of Revelation, we can understand when it will happen. And also the character of those who are caught up. The diagram shows how well the prophecies of Daniel and Matthew hang together. We go on to study the book of Revelation next.